I was not expecting to hear this today. We're 36 hours before the deadline, and the ILA sent out a communication announcing that they're absolutely going to strike.
Wow. So Tuesday, I mean, we're talking about October 1st, guys.
We will tell you, you are not going to do it no more. Let me explain something to you. These people today don't know what a strike is.
Right.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job.
Now, we've been warned already from Maine to Texas, okay? That's the entire East Coast and a tremendous amount of the Southeast ports that are in this list. I see Boston, New York, New Jersey, Newark, Philadelphia, Boston, Baltimore rather, Wilmington, Charleston, North Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Jacksonville, Florida, Miami, Florida, Tampa, Mobile, Alabama, New Orleans, Louisiana, Houston, Texas, guys. This is huge. New York, New Jersey. Guys, port workers are preparing to strike. Well, folks, it looks like Teamsters is not going to support Kamala Harris. In fact, Teamsters is more willing to support Donald Trump than they are willing to support Kamala Harris. Now, why does this matter, guys? Why does it matter if this particular union is unwilling to support Kamala Harris? Well, in my opinion, it definitely looks like they are convinced that Kamala Harris is not for them. But there's something very big happening. And looks like it's going to happen within the next 24 hours. And I hope that you guys are prepared for what is about to happen. We could see a nationwide complete and utter shutdown of coastal ports to a magnitude that could possibly be, I don't want to say comparable to a complete nationwide shutdown with the economy like we saw with the pandemic, but we have a lot to cover today, guys. Donald Trump is in Georgia today, in Valdosta, in support of the many victims and survivors of Hurricane Helene. I don't know if it's Hurricane Helen, Hurricane Helene. It has an E at the end, so I don't know if the E is silent. Anyway, Donald Trump has proven that he is in support of unions. Now, if you guys support Donald Trump, if you guys support unions, let me know in the comments, guys. By the way, if you haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for subscribing and sharing this video. We need to get the word out, folks. Take a listen.
This morning, a strike is looming at ports along the east and Gulf Coast that could cost the American economy billions of dollars per day and potentially. This morning, a strike is looming at ports along the east and Gulf Coast that could cost the American economy billions of dollars per day and potentially lead to shortages for consumers.
Now, guys, I don't want anyone to freak out and empty the shelves and leave us with no toilet paper like the last time, okay, guys? But at the same time, we do have to be smart. We do have to prepare for possible shortages, possible inventory depletions. So, you know, we need to be smart, but let's also not only be prepared, let's also be considerate of our neighbors, of our other family, friends, coworkers, colleagues, acquaintances that other people need to prepare too.
To shortages for consumers.
A strike of this magnitude would cripple the U.S. economy.
Dock workers represented by the International Longshoremen's Association are threatening to go on strike Tuesday. The strike would affect 45,000 workers and close to 36 ports from Texas to Maine. Analysts warn a walkout lasting more than a week could lead to major supply chain disruptions. Anything imported could be delayed, including fresh produce, toys, alcohol, and vehicles and parts.
So basically they're telling us we need to stock up on Grey Goose. We need to stock up on that Hennessy, the Jose Cuervo. No, just kidding. But seriously, guys, if they shut things down, we could see shortages spill out into additional industries that you really wouldn't necessarily expect. Just think about all the different industries that don't necessarily sell the products that could likely end up being in short supply, that could be, in the list of shortages. Think of how many industries, restaurants, and other businesses that depend on different products that could potentially run out, and how many people could literally lose their jobs, be laid off because they can't produce the product that they make. And so the ripple effect could be greater than we expect. So we definitely want to watch and see how this plays out. If you don't have an emergency fund, I suggest, if you are in a position to try to put an emergency fund together, do so now. So a few years ago, I stumbled upon this old, worn out book at a thrift store. It was like a Goodwill or something, with a handwritten note inside the cover, and it read, "This changed my life. Hope it does the same for you." So this is just this random note that was stuck inside of this book. Now, I was intrigued and I bought it for $1.50. And that little investment, guys, turned out to be the best one I ever made. In fact, the principles in that book literally opened up my eyes to how money really works. And they became the foundation for my journey to financial independence. Now, I'm sharing everything that I learned and more inside the Liberty Pursuit Network, guys. Make sure you click the link in the description down below. Join us today if you're ready to change your life too.
Some experts warning, if you need your car repaired, get to the dealership now.
If there's a prolonged strike, you could see shortages with fresh fruits and vegetables. Obviously, the automotive parts sector will be impacted.
The Port Workers Union is demanding higher wages and a ban on automated cranes, gates, and trucks. The U.S. Maritime Allowance, representing the ports, claims the union isn't bargaining in good faith.
Wow. Now, a lot of people are saying to themselves, well, isn't Joe Biden still the president of the United States? Like, where's Joe Biden? Where's Kamala Harris? This should be their moment to shine. Joe Biden basically campaigned on the fact that he's like this big union guy. He's for the unions and whatnot. But it's kind of like, in my opinion, I think it's like what we saw back with the railroad situation. Remember with BNSF and Norfolk Southern and those different crashes and railroad derailments and problems and things like that. There was a strike. There was a major BNSF or BSNF? I forget how you say that company, the railroad company, Norfolk Southern's primary competitor. So BNSF, they were borderline about to have a strike, and you would think that Joe Biden would have came in and prevented any of that from happening, because that would have wrecked a number of different industries. We would have seen shortages across the United States. All 50 states would be impacted, but there's a tremendous amount of raw materials, goods that are transported via train. Even to this day, I know railroad and train sounds like it sounds like it's so like early 1900s, 1800s, but there's a tremendous amount of goods that are really only transported via train due to safety issues. Case in point, when that whole BNSF or Norfolk Southern train derailment took place, I think it was in like, oh my God, was it East Palestine? I forget which. Y'all let me know in the comments. Was it BNSF or was it Norfolk Southern? Anyway, that train derailment created a tremendous toxicity problem within the air, because remember, they were trying to set and it screwed up the whole water system, and because of the contamination. Now this and it was crazy because we were hearing that the smoke was from the explosion had traveled miles. People 50, 100 miles away were saying that they were smelling this stuff. Now, think about the immediate residents that live there. I don't know if you guys are even aware or remember that particular crisis that took place with the East Palestine train derailment. But that's almost as bad as, I mean, it's worse, I think, but it's almost as bad as what we saw just yesterday. You guys remember what happened yesterday with the biolab explosion that took place in Conyers, Georgia? I mean, the billowing smoke that you could see from I-20 on the highway, it was just, it was like something out of an apocalyptic movie. And this is the exact same day that Donald Trump had visited, he had showed, Donald Trump and Melania Trump were actually at the Georgia-Bama game. And it was just wild how much was happening that day. Anyway, the impact of this shortage, the impact of this impending strike, guys, we're talking about less than 24 hours away from, by the time you see this, it may be less than 12 hours away from the strike. And the impact of this strike, it could be substantial. I mean, you want to talk about GDP impacting our economy? You think our economy is bad right now? You think inflation is bad right now? Just imagine, I mean, inflation's already high. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden haven't done really anything, in my opinion, to really help us with inflation. You guys can let me know if you think, if you agree or disagree. I think inflation was a lot lower under Donald Trump's presidency. And even people who don't like Donald Trump admit that, hey, inflation was a lot more under control. It was tamed under Donald Trump's administration compared to the Biden-Harris administration. And predictions are coming out that inflation would be a lot worse under Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. But we're going to go ahead and save that for another story, for another time. What I do want you guys to understand is if this strike actually does take place, just imagine what the cost of goods is going to do. What is going to happen with the cost of goods? Basic supply and demand principles, economic principles here, guys. When supply goes down and the demand increases, what do you think is going to happen to the prices? You think you got inflation now? Imagine if all of the ports on the whole East Coast from Maine to Texas were actually shut down. Oh boy. Oh boy. All I can say is prices will go through the roof. You go to the stores, you're going to see empty shelves. And I'm not trying to add hyperbole to this, but it's just basic economics, guys. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but this is live. This is real time.
The Maritime Alliance has filed an unfair labor practice charge with the National Labor Relations Board in hopes of getting the union back to the bargaining table before Tuesday's contract deadline.
Wow. So Tuesday, I mean, we're talking about October 1st, guys, right around the corner.
Association ordered union workers at major shipping ports along the East Coast. Thousands are set to hit the picket line this Tuesday. The International Longshoremen's Association ordering a strike after talks demanding fairer wages hit a standstill. News Nation's Caitlin Becker joins us live from Port Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Now, guys, let's just take a look here. Now, we've been warned already from Maine to Texas, okay? That's the entire East Coast and a tremendous amount of the southeast ports that are in this list. I see Boston, New York, New Jersey, Newark, Philadelphia, Boston, Baltimore, rather, Wilmington, Charleston, North Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Jacksonville, Florida, Miami, Florida, Tampa, Mobile, Alabama, New Orleans, Louisiana, Houston, Texas, guys. This is huge. New York, New Jersey. Guys, port workers are preparing to strike.
New Jersey, Caitlin, what are we learning here? Major developments since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, truly, Jesse. I was not expecting to hear this today. We're 36 hours before the deadline, and the ILA sent out a communication announcing that they're absolutely going to strike. They're going to walk off the job when their current contract expires. Now, it's a 6-year contract. Each of these contracts are 6 years, and the expiration date is midnight on Monday. So 12:01 Tuesday, these workers are going to walk off the job. There's going to be a full-on work stoppage up and down.
We've seen work stoppages with General Motors before. We've seen, with GM, and it generally happens with these manufacturing businesses. General Motors, Ford, Stellantis. I mean, we've seen this before, and when the union workers don't get what they want and they come together and they put their foot down, they will literally shut these businesses down. And I got something that I'm going to share with you guys in a little bit. We're going to talk about how they want to implement automation. And the key for these businesses, for these large corporations, is profit, profit, profit. They want to increase the revenues. They want to drive down their expenses. They want to increase production, and they want to basically make as much money per unit as possible. This is basic business, right? The problem with that, though, is that workers get screwed. And so in order to combat that, workers are coming out and they're saying, no, we're not going to let you have these automated systems eliminate my job so I can't feed my family, and then you're going to end up laying me off. What am I going to do for work? Some of these towns don't have any other work opportunities other than where they're working at. Some folks work in a factory And if that factory shuts down or that particular position gets eliminated, what are they going to do to feed their family? That would devastate the family's household income.
The East Coast and parts of the Gulf. Now, the ILA has not released any details specifically about exactly where these picket lines are going to be. They said that's going to come likely sometime tomorrow. However, they did note what the major issue was, and it really came down, Jesse, to wage stagnation. They said that the U.S. Maritime Alliance, that is who they're in talks with or were in talks with, just wouldn't come to an agreement about what they called wage subjugation that they said had been happening for years. Now, I have to tell you that from the U.S. MX perspectives, they have said time and again that they were offering industry-leading wages more than the 32%, which was the last hike that their West Coast counterparts got for their contract last year.
Wait, did they mention a 32% hike? Are they talking about a 32% raise? How many of you guys work in an industry where there's a union, or maybe you're, close friends, maybe a spouse to someone who works in an industry with a union? How many of you guys would actually be directly impacted by this? I'm just curious. You guys let me know in the comments down below, guys.
But the ILA wanted a 77% wage hike, and they just couldn't come to an agreement. Now, these two groups haven't been at...
Okay. So they wanted a 77% wage hike, and it looks like they're getting offered a 32% wage hike. That's a pretty substantial increase. Now, I don't know how long it's been since the last wage increase. Obviously, if it's been 10 years, then you would probably be about due for at least a 30% raise or wage hike, because inflation's been eating your lunch for the last 4 years. But inflation has always been there. But the scale, the rate of inflation has been tremendous over the last 4 years. Some people think it's only going to affect imported goods, and that we can use other ports, but we'll suffer paying higher prices. I disagree with that. I think that, anytime you have a strike, especially that's affecting the ports, that means that we can't export goods either. It's going to impact imported and exported goods. You got to look at it from both sides. Yeah, so a crap load of inflation is expected if this strike does go through. Now, some people are looking at blaming the Biden-Harris administration, but some people are also saying that this strike is probably a Biden-Harris ploy to show a booming economy next month after everybody stocks up 1 month before the election. Now, that's an interesting take, guys. Imagine this. If this strike takes place, and or even if the strike doesn't take place, look what could possibly happen. I think this is a very good point that that has been made here. If people think a strike is coming, if everyone suddenly runs out to the stores and buys things up in advance before this strike happens, because they're fearful that there will be shortages and inventory will be lacking, this could create a tremendous spike in the economy. And then Kamala Harris and Tim Walz can come out and say, hey, look at this amazing economy. Look at the GDP growth. Look at this GDP spike that took place. Meanwhile, this could theoretically have been a coordinated, pre-planned, well-executed plan against the American people by threatening a strike or even having an actual strike and forcing people to go out and spend money. Because when people spend money, it basically boosts the economy, right? It also boosts inflation, but it boosts the economy, and it would give Kamala Harris and Tim Walz the ability to be able to say, hey, under my administration, and it's funny because Kamala Harris doesn't want to take any credit for things that have not gone well under the Biden administration, but she will take credit for when things do go well. Under my administration, the GDP, the economy has spiked, even though it's spiked due to this whole impending strike coming up. But, that's rather interesting. So another one, Lee says, it must be nice to be able to afford to go on strike for higher wages while the rest of us are forced to suffer making crap because we literally can't afford to strike. And that's a good point. Now, I've not ever worked for a company where there's a union in place, but from what I understand, from what I gather, unions, number one, you got to pay dues into them, so they're eating away at your paycheck. But there's allegedly some benefits to being in a union. If you guys have any personal experience working with unions, let me know if you think they're good, if they're worth it, or if they're a waste of money, if they don't really actually support the workers like they claim to. But I heard that unions pay you an amount likely not equal to your traditional, your typical income while you're on strike. So I don't know what that figure would be. Any of you guys who happen to work for a union, you guys let me know in the comments how much of your salary or income would be provided by the union if you were to strike. Is it 50%? Is it 80%? Is it 100%? Is it 10%? Y'all let me know in the comments. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that the East Coast is totally screwed. The East closed off from West due to hurricane, and now ports are closed. War is coming. Won't be an election. Where's the National Guard or FEMA for these devastated states? And this comes on top of the fact that today there was a freaking massive Verizon wireless outage. I mean, it's just crazy how many things we're getting hit with. We had a nationwide Verizon wireless outage, and it almost seemed like Verizon didn't want to accept the fact that, hey, half the freaking country can't make calls. They were stuck in like some kind of SOS, they were stuck in like phones were stuck in like SOS mode. I don't know if you couldn't make phone calls or whatnot, but because I don't have Verizon wireless, I didn't get hit with that. I need to look into that and see exactly what happened with the Verizon wireless outage today. But all I know is like their phones weren't working. The phones were like a brick because it's like, yo, this phone's useless to me with the service being down. So Verizon Wireless is saying that their phone service is being restored. There's a tremendous amount of customers still complaining that the outage is still in effect for them. So you guys let me know, because we were getting initial reports about the Verizon wireless outage earlier this morning. I don't know how many people are affected to this very moment right now, but it was pretty serious. It was definitely across the United States.
Go to put a fully automated terminal, we are going to shut them down around the world and put them out of business. Now, we might shut them down for 3 weeks to send them a strong message. None of your ships are going to move. But if they think they're going to keep going and putting on fully automated terminals and knocking out great jobs that dock workers have worked for 200 years to bring these people to where they are today, and now it's all about greed and money, they don't need us no more. They want to put a fully automated terminal in and get rid of us. I'm not going to allow that. I will never allow that. You understand me? So this is a must. We're going to have this alliance, and we're going to make it work. We're going to show the companies we have the power, not you.
What do you guys think about that? You know, you got automation, AI, ChatGPT, Google Bard, all these different automation tools. And while they are convenient and helpful and they can increase productivity, the problem that people are having with this, and, you know, again, let me know if you guys find yourself in that situation or you know someone who's in a situation, is eliminating some jobs. It's going to eliminate jobs. Now, the positive side to this is, you know, it will create some new jobs. There's a lot of jobs today that exist that didn't exist, say, 50 years ago. So with the evolution of an economy, there are some jobs that end up being casualties. And so the question is, how many jobs will be lost if these fully automated platforms are put in place, especially in the automotive industry? And I had a conversation earlier today. The Honda Civic, that was one of my first cars as a kid. And, you know, we used to tinker around with cars, putting in the air intake systems, the exhaust, motor swaps, turbos, superchargers. We were doing this before Fast and Furious. We were putting in nitrous kits, the works. We were doing some stuff. Shout out to my mom for letting us do that in her garage. We ruined the garage floor. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make here is this, guys. This will inevitably eliminate jobs. And what we are hearing is that these workers are willing to strike to block the companies, to block the manufacturers from putting in these fully automated systems. They're trying to protect their jobs. And I honestly can't be mad at them. Who could be mad at a worker who wants to just protect their livelihood? And this is the situation that we find ourselves in. Donald Trump says that he will bring American jobs back to America. This is one of the things that Trump and JD Vance stand on. My question, though, and y'all let me know if you've heard Donald Trump talk on this particular talking point, but I do wonder what Donald Trump's going to do, how he's going to handle Americans that are being impacted by the implementation of automation, because that is the next most existential threat to American jobs outside of outsourcing the jobs to places like India and other countries where labor is less expensive that could be carried out from another place. So some are saying that this is the chance for trucking to get better pay because and also if they close a few weeks, all of those customers are all going to be paying pretty good to get their shipments ASAP once the ports open again. So that's a good point for the trucking industry. A lot of the truckers out here, they've been getting their lunch eaten because, you know, once the pandemic hit, a lot of truckers they were making 10 grand a week. I know some truckers that are making 40 grand a month. Okay. Truckers. Right. But then when everyone started hearing about this opportunity, well, what happened? Well, the demand for trucking was higher than the supply. So that's why the truckers were making so much money. Then owner operators began seeing their revenues decline because since the opportunity became so abundantly clear that this is where you needed to be, how many more people started getting their CDL licenses, right? So all these new truckers started saying, hey, I need to get my CDL license, buying semi-trucks, new semi-trucks, used semi-trucks, Kenworth, Mack trucks, Volvo, I mean, you name it, right? And so before you knew it, the market began to correct itself. And this is capitalism, guys. This is evidence of a healthy economy. So entrepreneurs, business owners, owner operators began buying more trucks, buying their first truck, getting their CDL licenses. And what ended up happening is that more and more of these truckers came on the market. Now it's to a point where I'm hearing from a lot of truckers that the amount of money that they can make trucking is not what it used to be. Well, I mean, that's what happens. The boom, the opportunity, the window kind of like closed and more people started coming in. So with more truckers, the rates started coming down because it's like, hey, you know, these companies didn't necessarily have to deal with the few truckers that they had. Now there's an abundance of truckers. So when people say that this is a chance for trucking to get better pay because they're going to close for a few weeks, you got to look at it like this, though. If they close for a few weeks, what are you going to be doing for those few weeks? You might get more pay if let's assume that the strike takes place, they shut down for a few weeks, the pay goes through the roof. You didn't eat for 3 weeks, though, or however many weeks they were shut down. So it's like, okay, if you have to shut down, is it worth the shutdown to get this temporary higher pay rate? I don't know about that one. Folks are saying you got to do what you got to do. Somebody said that this guy's a Dave Ramsey brother. He definitely does look like Dave Ramsey. Look at this guy.
We will tell you, you are not going to do it no more. Let me explain something to you. These people today don't know what a strike is.
Right.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port, a lockdown. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because...
Oh boy, guys, get ready, folks. all I can say is get ready, folks. This could be huge. By the way, if you haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you share this video with your friends, with your family. Share this video on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and check out my previous videos, guys. You got to check out the latest that's going on with Diddy, with the New York City mayor, Eric Adams, just got hit with an indictment. And of course, all of the latest news that is going on with Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris in the most important presidential election in our lives. Definitely check those videos out. Click on my channel right now. Check those videos out. Click on the videos tab and click on the live tab. Anyway, guys, I wish you guys all the best. I'll see you next time.